Today on Here for the Right Reasons, Blake Hortzman breaks down what he really thinks happened between Pieper and Brendan.
And had he just, both of them just kind of been like, we f***ed up, you're right, like we were super into each other, we should never have came down here, but we did, here we are. I think they, at the end of the day, they're still in a Bachelor Nation relationship. They are clearly into each other, they're cute together. I think they would have survived. But then it was, then it was Brendan kind of just digging his hole. And that was the point where I was, I was like, just curl up in the fetal position and just take it.
Serena and Joe say, I love you, as Kendall breaks down.
The I love yous or falling in love with you was very cute. Her like really like excitement got me a little bit. I was feeling those too.
And we're breaking down everything else you need to know about this week's Bachelor in Paradise. We've got that plus so much more on today's Here for the Right Reasons. Hey guys, Christina Garibaldi here with Us Weekly senior editor Sarah Heron. Sarah, welcome to another week for Here for the Right Reasons.
Christina, I mean, I know we only had one episode this week, but I feel like they packed a lot in. There's like so many moving parts.
So many moving parts. We had people going, we had people breaking down, we had relationships forming, ending. So much going into 2 hours, and we had Lil Jon, so thank God for that.
Gotta love the Lil Jon entrance.
Totally. But before we break down everything you need to know about last night's episode, I know that you sat down with Blake Hortzman, who, of course, always spills a lot of Bachelor tea.
Yeah, Blake is a good interview when it comes to Paradise, always. And this time we talked a lot about Brendan and Pieper and why he thinks that producers might actually have been setting them up for failure. Take a look.
So, great question. I don't know what the plan is, and whatever plan they had planned didn't work. Like they muffed it. I think maybe they had a plan going in, but once you're in that environment, and she's been quarantining for a minute. Like, I bet she was in quarantining for 4 or 5, maybe close to like 7 or 8 days with COVID and everything, and then first few days on the beach. Those producers can get to you, man. Those producers can get to you, and I'm sure, I don't know what their plan was, but if the producer over 5 days somehow convinced her, like, don't waste your time with the other guys, just go for Brendan. Right. Don't waste your other time, and she was like, good idea. Yeah, by the 5th day, she's like, that was my idea, like, that's how good they are. And so I think Brendan looked surprised. Brendan was shocked. The look on his face was like, wait a minute, like, we're off script. But I don't know what they were thinking. The one thing the producers don't like is when you try and bamboozle them.
Okay.
And they will try and ruin you. They will try and ruin you if they feel like you have tried to one-up them or whatever, go over their head. And I think that's exactly what happened with Pieper and Brendan.
And Brendan, I mean, throughout the episode, one thing, the follower conversation, which we'll get to, is one issue. But the stuff he was saying about Natasha and the calling it a coincidence that Pieper got here, the saying she has selective hearing, like that kind of stuff, let alone the stuff he said behind her back, is just like lying to her face. And that is actually gaslighting, whatever, that big buzzword these days, but that trying to tell someone that they experienced, what we all watched happen, didn't happen, is just like, he couldn't have played it worse.
Yeah, 100%. So the way I look at this situation, Brendan's not the first person to have a quote-unquote relationship or girlfriend going on the show. I mean, you had Demi do it. You've had some other people in past seasons. The thing is, like, yes, that's frowned upon. It's kind of the unwritten rule. You shouldn't do that. But had he just owned it, and had he just, both of them just kind of been like, we f***ed up, you're right, like we were super into each other, we should never have came down here, but we did, here we are. I think they, at the end of the day, they're still in a Bachelor Nation relationship. They are clearly into each other, they're cute together. I think they would have survived. But then it was, Brendan kind of just digging his hole. And that was the point where I was, I was like, just curl up in the fetal position and just take it. Because the more, it's like quicksand. The more you struggle and you try to get out, the more you sink deeper and deeper. And he got tangled in a bunch of lies, it seemed like. And so I think, and then not only that, but then they're like, little conversation they had off camera or whatever, or quote unquote off camera, but it was clearly on camera. They were mic'd up. It was just hard to watch, just being like, guys, you got to stop. You got to stop. You got to stop. It just got worse and worse for them.
Do you think when they were talking about followers and they were like kind of laughing at each other and he made that comment about Natasha having no prospects and it kind of seemed like he was talking to someone else. Mm-hmm. Do you think they either, because I feel like they had to know they were being filmed because like everything's filmed. So that would be kind of like giving them almost like too much of a pass. I feel like they thought that it wouldn't air because it's breaking the fourth wall too much. So they figured they could talk freely. Their ABC would never want to like blow up their own game with the follow. Because ever you guys hinted that stuff, but this is the most I feel like the show has ever really broken the fourth wall, especially with the influencer stuff. I mean, you talk about like you're here for the wrong reasons. You talk about you want to be the Bachelor, but it's not always explicitly like I had 84K and now I have this. Like this was the most like influencer Bachelor BS I feel like I've seen on this show. So do you think they just thought it wouldn't air? Do you think they didn't think they were being filmed? Like what the hell were they thinking?
Yeah, good question. So I agree with you as far as this is I've never heard people actually, like this does happen though. Like there were people on my season who were talking about followers and podcasts and like things like that. It does happen.
Your season was podcasts. Everyone was talking about their podcast growth.
Yeah. So it does happen. These conversations happen, and they're not the first people to have a conversation on the beach about followers and who has the most followers, blah, 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 blah. But I don't know as far, this is the first time they've aired anything like that, which is kind of shocking. That's why I think Brendan having a girlfriend back home would have been enough. Like, I think he would have been the quote unquote villain. And that's why I think the producers were like, no. You tried to bamboozle us. We're going to destroy you. And they did. They showed everything possibly wrong that Brendan said. Like, and he said a lot of wrong things, but he's not the first person to do it. The producers were like, no, that's going on, that, we're showing that. And so there's the one thing I'll say about Paradise compared to like Bachelor and Bachelorette, there's so much going on. There are different storylines everywhere. So sometimes you're like, I'm not the main character. Like this, not only are they not filming me, but like they don't care about me. So there's times in that, because I remember when I was going through my drama, it was kind of like, obviously at the very beginning I knew, well, I'm the main character. I was like, I'm going to be all the episodes. But then later on, like I remember saying some things and I was like, I can't believe they aired that, because like I wasn't the main character. So there's just so much going on sometimes that you kind of forget that, they could use literally every single thing you say. And they do. They really, really do. So it's kind of crazy down there.
Do you agree with him? Do you really think that they like set them up for failure?
I'm sure I kind of like to some degree. I think that it's interesting that they aired all that stuff. And if you want to hear, my whole chat with Blac, you can listen to Us Weekly's Here for the Right Reasons podcast. But I think there is something to be said for them breaking the fourth wall and really going there with these two versus not doing that in other seasons. Because according to Blac, there's been conversations like that had before. That being said, destroy them was a wild choice of words. What do you think?
A wild choice of words, definitely. I mean, I don't think they're ever out to destroy anyone. But yeah, I'm sure if they were like, well, these people totally played us behind our back to get a free ticket to Mexico and 100,000 followers, then yeah, we're going to set you up to look pretty bad but they dug their own grave. I mean, they said it. I mean, it's not like the producers were feeding something in their ear to say. They said these things. They had these conversations.
1,000%. There's no getting around that Brendan and Pieper are shady, especially Brendan, which I know we'll get into. But it was also interesting. I learned this week that the Us Weekly article about Brendan and Pieper came out when some of them were already in quarantine, which is why Pieper was telling Brendan about like her followers and stuff. So I wonder if that would feed into the producer thing, because if they saw the article when Brendan was already there, like what he had told them. And that would kind of make sense for Blac's theory to be a little bit like, all right, we're not going to protect you at all here. Like if the group finds out and if you play the wrong person, you're screwed. And that's what happened. And they did. They played playing anyone is bad, but Natasha clearly, this episode at least, had her back.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. The Paradise Police was out in full force this week and they were not having it. So let's get into last night's episode. And first up, let's kick it off with our Bachelor buzzwords. What kind of summed up last night's episode for you?
Honestly, I'm going with trust. I feel like in a good way and a bad way, there was a lot of broken trust, obviously, with Pieper and Natasha. And then we had Tammy kind of claiming that, she trusted Thomas and gave him everything, which we'll get into. We had Demi claiming she trusted Kenny. And I really kind of think that this was a misunderstanding and these people were allowed to just, move on and date other people, which we'll get into. But also trust with Serena and Joe and the couples that are solid. Like, I think there was a lot of people letting their guard down this week.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that one. I like that one. Mine was X on the beach. The later half of the episode is kind of Kendall breaking down, seeing Serena and Joe making out on the beach. They're telling each other, "I love you." I mean, we're gonna get more into that later, but that's gotta be hard to see. I can't imagine that's fun. And then even Natasha, she's kind of like the X on the beach as well with Pieper and Brendan. So definitely a lot of X's looming in on the beach. So
yeah, I agreed. MTV needs to get some of these people on the show X on the Beach ASAP.
ASAP, totally.
All right, but on a better note, who are you shipping? Who are you into? 'Cause a lot of connections.
A lot of connections. I kind of like Tia and Blac. I thought that they were really cute. She said, this was, the first, or she felt that she had known him for a very long time. And, they really had a connection. She said it made her vagina dance, which she brought up in the past. So I think that I like them together. I think that this might be a start of something nice. And it's cool though, too, because usually when people come in a little bit later on, they don't really form those connections. And it seems like they really hit it off.
I was happy to see Tia. We know she likes tattoos since she went for Kenny earlier in the season. I mean, it was funny that they were joking about how it felt like they knew each other because it was like that's the theme of this season. Right. And interesting to see the other Blac from the Claire Tayshia season. I kind of forgot about him.
Totally forgot about him.
I agree. I think it was kind of nice to see. I mean, there's still like probably 3 or 4 episodes left. So interesting to see a new connection form. So I could get behind those two.
Definitely. How about you?
All right, I think I'm coming around on Joe and Serena. I still worry about the long term with them, but the I love yous or falling in love with you was very cute. Her like really like excitement got me a little bit. I was feeling those too. I know you've been on board already, but
I am on board, but I definitely have your hesitations as well and your concerns because Joe really wants to stay in Chicago, and I don't know if Serena is going to want to make the move or if they've even discussed that, but hopefully they work things out, and they're definitely falling hard and falling fast.
Yes. I still don't think she's moving to Chicago, but I can still ship them for now.
Totally. Well, this show is all about a good one-liner. So who does your line of the night go to?
Okay, so I just wanted to quickly point out that Brendan called Joe Joey right before the big confrontation.
Right,
so I enjoyed that. Joey's coming at me like it was like a sitcom. But my actual line of the night has to go to Wells with the only rule is you don't go on the show with a boyfriend or girlfriend, any of these shows. And it's true because there was so much discussion about rules and Paradise and, the Paradise Police as we dubbed them last week. And I think that if there is one rule, that should be it. And I'm just so confused why that wasn't known.
Right. Why doesn't anybody understand this? But it just goes to show that people just use this show to get famous. And that's what their agenda is. We don't know if Pieper and Brendan are even still together. I mean, we'll probably find that out soon if they have a reunion, but they just want to gain followers, and they saw this as an opportunity to do so. But Wells is right. Don't go on the show if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend because you're going to get caught. It always happens.
Yes. What were your overall thoughts on the confrontation while we're here? Because my big problem was that they didn't do a good enough job saying you used Natasha part of it. Yeah. They came to that conclusion as a group after Brendan and Pieper walked away, but it didn't really feel like it was established. They clearly, whether they're lying to you or not, they clearly, were dating before, and then eventually they kind of admitted it. But I felt like they should have been, they weren't making it clear. I know Brendan wasn't going to hear it anyway, but they weren't making it clear that, it's not that you want to date each other. It's that you used someone else to get there. And they also even made it she could have had you wasted a rose or you wasted a spot. That's not the point. You literally used someone and gaslit them and made them think that you were fall into them, and then ripped it out and then made fun of her.
Yeah, and totally made fun of her. You're so right, because it's not about the spot. They would have had the spot anyway, but he just wasted this girl's time for 3 weeks. And he keeps saying, well, she wouldn't have had a connection with anybody else. She would have went what is wrong with this girl? She's beautiful. She's smart. She's funny. Anybody would. You just wasted her time where she could have made other connections with other people. You're not that great, Brendan, where she's the only one that would she's only has eyes for you. Come on, give me a break.
And he made her feel so insecure because she was trying to make a move, and he would back away, and she thought it was something she was doing, but really it was because he was waiting for Pieper. And then I heard her on the Clickbait podcast say that one of the reasons she was still not giving up on their relationship was because he would blame the fact that he wanted to move so slow because he'd been married before.
Right, yeah.
And that really set up Tayshia because he said that on her season. And then he showed up on Paradise I was broken on The Bachelor, but I'm ready now. When really he's just diabolical to go on the show and think that he could get away with it.
And it also makes you think did he remove himself from Tayshia's season because maybe he thought that he could be the Bachelor if he set himself up that way, or if he definitely wanted to go on Paradise, if this was just a way for him to just continue to get famous and continue to be on the series. I feel like he's had this calculated since day one.
I don't trust him at all. I mean, even Pieper admitting, like, I told you I didn't want to come. I told you that clearly this was his idea. They met, he liked her. He didn't want to miss out on his paradise time. And his whole like argument that they are spending more time on the beach than they would have spent in real life just doesn't even make sense, because if it wasn't going to work in real life, if you weren't ready to prioritize it in real life, then why were you going to be able to prioritize it after paradise? Like, this is a horrible argument.
Yeah. There's no way this relationship is lasting, by the way.
No. And if it does, like, it's just, I can't imagine people rooting for that.
I can't either.
What was your quote? After that long rant.
I forgot about my quote. Mine, I have to give it to Tammy, where she was saying to Thomas, I feel like you're a great fit in my life. You're my best friend. I'm like, how can he be your best friend? You just met him like 4 days ago.
Oh my God. Okay. We have to talk about Tammy and Thomas, because I feel two ways about it. One, it's just a classic case of he's just not that into you.
Right.
And she's not picking up the signs. But did we miss some? What did we miss? Like, I know we saw them bond about being villains a little bit, and I know we can't see everything, but the reaction she had and this strong, you could fit into my life. Like, what makes her think that?
Right. And like, what can I do to convince you to stay with me, pretty much? Like, girl, he just moved on. Like, he's playing the paradise game. He doesn't want to be with you anymore. We must have missed something. At least I hope we missed something.
I hope so too. And I know I'm so confused in how I'm supposed to feel about Thomas, because I know he's like a villain or whatever, but Becca's kind of like the paradise sweetheart. And if they have a connection, I guess we're rooting for them. But was Thomas playing Tammy? Was he saying all these amazing things to her? And that's why she's so confused, because her reaction, I mean, unless she's like, I don't like the word delusional, but It doesn't really make sense for her to feel so strongly and her to say, I trusted you and I gave you everything, for him to not maybe said some sort of like anything to get the rose smooshed kind of thing. I don't know. I feel like maybe he was promising her things, or she just was spiraling because she knew she was going to look bad because she left him for Aaron. She left Aaron for Thomas.
That's true. And she probably, the realization's like, oh, I'm going home now. Like, nobody else is into me. We're about to have a rose ceremony. This is the end of my paradise journey. Maybe that was it too, because even like the hysterics afterwards, like just crying, like unconsolably crying, it was just like, it was a bit much for me. But hopefully, like we said, maybe when they have the reunion, we can get some answers as to like how deep their connection really was. Because it just definitely didn't add up for me.
It didn't add up for me. I mean, I know our thirst, I feel like, brings us right back to Brendan and Pieper, but what was yours?
I mean, it was Brendan just trying to justify why he should be there. I mean, he's like, I have every right to be here. We're exploring our relationship. And then even Pieper saying, I know that you're going to talk about it, like Pieper being like, oh, I came here to meet him. Girl, you met him 10 times. You hung out with him all the time.
That was great when Demi was like, meet him. Like, it really was ridiculous. They had so much time, even after, especially because the episode started and it was like, oh, we're getting away with it kind of thing. Like, Chris was our scapegoat, and they still didn't have like a real plan. Like, Pieper, her only defense is that she's owning up to like, I said I came here for him the whole time. But Brendan's like, and then he finally admitted they had hung out, a few times in groups, more than just the 2 or 3. But everything he was saying just made no sense. And it's like, think it through. He had a little bit more time to come up with a plan and he failed. But when she brought up her marketing degree, I was like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah. Like, check done. Like, pack your bags. You need to leave. And nobody wants to see you ever again. I totally agree with you.
Ever again. Like, if this relationship doesn't work out, which I don't think it will, like, they better not be on another season, because that's not fair. I don't think
Bachelor Nation or Bachelor producers would want to give them another spotlight, because, like, I mean, kind of agreeing with what Blac had to say about that, I don't think producers will want to go down that road again. But who knows? No. Crazier things have happened. Speaking of crazy things, let's talk about cringeworthy moments of the night. I mean, whipped cream on the toes, not for me. Sorry, Marissa and Riley, you know how much we love you, but gross.
I really do love them. I still ship. I'm so happy they have each other for that, because like that was a great moment for them. For me personally, it was unfortunate and cringy. Jax and Brittany Vanderpump Rules foot fetish vibes, but at least it gave us Wells giving that a lovely line about how the sand is filled with dead crabs, and now that's what he's licking off. And if they can get through this, they can make it through an engagement.
That is very true. But it makes me, obviously magic of editing, but it looks like some new guys come in next week, and it looks like Marissa maybe goes out on a date or something like that. Something happens and it makes me very upset, because she has to be with Riley.
You hear her voiceover. I feel like they're messing with us.
I feel like that too.
Talking like maybe she compliments someone's like abs or something, the same way that Riley every single episode gets like the girls like gawking at him, which I get it. He's gorgeous. But yeah, there's no way. Those two are solid. If she is licking somebody else's toes next week, I will freak out.
Totally. So gross. What was your cringeworthy moment of the night?
Okay, we have to talk about the Dr. Joe of it all.
Yeah.
As much as I was so happy Natasha got to stay and I'm rooting for her to find love, my first cringe was just like how hard everyone was shipping Dr. Joe and Natasha. Again, everyone wants the best for her, but it felt a little forced for me. And then it was wildly, wildly cringy when Dr. Joe goes, "My Brendan?" When she was talking about her Paradise experience. Turns out those two are best friends, and he was in shock that his Brendan is actually not great.
Oh, and maybe he's not his Brendan anymore after watching back these episodes. I would sure hope not.
I would sure hope not, but that was pretty cringy for me. That was
totally cringy. Totally cringy.
Roses.
Mine goes to Serena for, saying I love you first and kind of putting it all out there. She was a little nervous to say it, but she said that, I'm falling in love with you. And, they are really cute. I thought like obviously they took their relationship to another level this week, but I would give her props for saying how she feels.
I agree with that. And I also would love to keep giving her props for how she's handling the Kendall situation. Yeah. Like she said I think, she was venting. She's like, it's really hard when his ex is right there. She's lovely, but like whatever. Right. And it does kind of feel like, and I like Kendall, but in last week's episodes, especially like she was always with them, which was confusing to me. And now not that it's, she can't be sitting where she was sitting and who knows who was there first, but the fact that she was like watching, like just walk away. Like, I don't know. And I feel like Serena's handling it well.
She is. It's like, she's like third wheeling in the background. It's really weird, but I wouldn't want to be watching that. But yes, no, Serena is handling it really well.
My rose goes to Pauly, the guy who gave Natasha her rose. I just thought it was so funny the way they had Wells like call that guy down and give it to her. And I'm happy they did it. I think she deserves a second chance. Part of me thinks it's like just not going to work. And if I were her, I'd probably just leave, but I'm rooting for her. I don't think Dr. Joe's the one for her, but there looks like even more guys coming next week. So fingers crossed one of them are there for Natasha.
I hope so. Girl needs some love and I wish her the best. I really hope it works out for her, but we have to send some people packing this week. How about you? Who are you sending home?
I'm just sending James home. I don't know why he's still there. He seems like a nice man, but I'm really confused how him and Aaron are still around. I know Aaron's like with Chelsea. I could see Chelsea maybe being someone who goes on a few more dates next week too. Maybe they just give him screen time. But James specifically, I mean, he had Tia so fast and lost her so quickly. Here and then gone.
Mine goes to Kendall. I mean, we kind of just talked about it. I just feel like this is not doing her any favors being there. She's not really making any connections and it's just putting herself through a whole lot of pain that she just probably doesn't need to see firsthand.
Totally. And I mean, even justice for Ivan, I want to like get behind that, but this guy's just sitting there trying to make conversation and she's just like on the verge of tears at all times. So I think maybe Ivan could go home with Kendall just because not that I don't like him. It's just the clock's ticking here.
Yeah, clock is ticking. And I can't believe, we only have a few episodes left of Bachelor in Paradise and a lot is going to happen in these next few weeks.
And we know that we're going to meet the new Bachelor on Michelle's season. So excited about that. And that officially means that Greg is out of the running. So bye, Greg. Justice for Andrew and Michael A. I low-key think they might have said no because there, was a lot of drama around Katie's season with the gaslighting and everything. But I'm ready. They must love this guy from Michelle's season if they feel confident enough that he can carry the franchise without even us meeting him.
I can't wait. We're going to have to start our guesses once we see the first episode.
I low-key feel bad for Michelle because the whole season is going to be like, well, which one's Bachelor?
Right. I can't wait. We just have a few more weeks, almost a month left until Michelle's season premieres. And of course, we're going to recap every single one. So I can't wait for that one. All right, Sarah, thanks for running down all things Bachelor with me. Who's on the podcast this week?
Connor from Hannah Brown's season. He's been on Paradise. He was on Hannah Brown's season, which was a really good one. So I'm excited to catch up with him.
Definitely. All right. Well, make sure to check back every Wednesday on Us Weekly's YouTube channel for Here for the Right Reasons. Keep commenting, keep subscribing, and we will see you guys next week.